My name is Charles Morin. I'm a professor of psychology and I hold the Canada Research Chair on Sleep Disorders at Université Laval in Quebec City. There are different sleep cycles we go through the night, and we recognize four different stages. So, as we move from wakefulness to the first stage of sleep, so we first enter very light sleep, stage one sleep, and after a few minutes during this transitional period, we will move then to stage two, which is a little bit deeper, and eventually to stage three, which is the deepest stage of sleep we go through during the night. So we will move from stage one to two to three within the first maybe 45 minutes of sleep. And after that, we'll have a first episode of REM sleep, REM for rapid eye movement sleep. That's a period when we dream. And we will stay in that stage for another maybe 15, 20, sometime up to 30 minutes. And this will conclude the first sleep cycle of the night, which lasts approximately 90 minutes and up to 120 minutes. And we will repeat these sleep-wake cycles, or these sleep cycles, two, three, four, five times during the night. So this is all normal for young adults who work by day and sleep by night and do not use sleep medications and do not suffer from psychological problems like anxiety and depression. But all these factors will have a negative impact both on sleep quality and sleep duration. But the most important factor affecting sleep quality and sleep duration is aging. As we age, grow older, our sleep quality is reduced. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily problematic because as we grow older, we tend to have lighter sleep and maybe we sleep also for shorter periods of time, but that's not necessarily problematic. It becomes a problem when we have trouble falling asleep at bedtime and when we have trouble with staying asleep throughout the night. Typically, if we take more than half an hour to fall asleep, or if we wake up and we spend more than half an hour in the middle of the night, then that's when we would talk about insomnia. And we would talk about clinically significant insomnia or chronic insomnia if these kinds of problems repeat themselves several times a week and they last for several weeks, months, and sometimes years. So there is a very strong connection between stress during the day and sleep at night. In most cases of insomnia, there is a stressful life event that triggers the initial episode of insomnia. And on a day-to-day basis, if a person is anxious or stressed during the day, that's likely to impact on their sleep at night. And the same is true if you sleep poorly at night. This is likely also to have a negative impact on your next daytime functioning. So this connection doesn't go only in one direction, it's bi-directional. And the most common daytime consequences associated with poor sleep at night involve, of course, anxiety, stress, but also fatigue, decreased energy, problems with concentration, problems with sustaining attention, and mood. Oftentimes, people who sleep poorly at night are more likely to have a more irritable mood during the day. So this is a very intimate connection between stress, anxiety, and sleep. And as some people say, these are not good bed partners. Different steps that you can take if you have sleep problems during a stressful period. For instance, like what we're going through during this pandemic of COVID-19. For those who are sleep deprived, whether you're healthcare workers in the front line or you have so many obligations with your work at home or with your family, it may not be insomnia per se, it may be more sleep deprivation because there are not enough hours in one day to get all the sleep you need to feel rested during the day. So the first recommendation for these people is really to make sleep a priority and to reserve a block of 7 or 8 hours every night for sleep and nothing else. We often take sleep for granted until we lack sleep. So the first step, and that's only under your control, is to give a higher priority to sleep, because sleep is one of the three pillars of sustainable health. It is just as important as a good diet and as exercise. So we have to give it the priority that it deserves. Uh, One other thing that can be done, particularly during this time of social confinements during COVID-19, is to make sure that you keep some regular schedule for sleep, for work, for meal times, and for leisure times. These activities are all kind of time markers under normal circumstances, and that's what keeps our sleep-wake schedule regular. Now, under social confinements, we have less restrictions as to the time we get up in the morning, the time we eat, the time we go to bed at night. And naturally, if we lose, if these activities are practiced at irregular times, it's very likely also to have a negative impact on our sleep wake schedule. Exposure to daylight is also critical to regulate our sleep-wake schedule. So it's important to make time to go outdoor while respecting the rules of our public health officials. But we can still go out, take a walk, exercise. That's very important for sleep as well. And maybe one last thing that is important, particularly during this stressful period, is to avoid using your cellular or iPads or electronics, particularly from your bedroom or from your bed and around bedtime. Because when you do that at that time, it's very likely to activate your mind and maybe your body as well and interfere with your ability to sleep. If despite doing all those things to prevent sleep problems, you still develop recurrent insomnia, there are a number of things that can be done. And the first thing is to make sure that you allow 1 hour before you go to bed to unwind. It's very important to reserve this period for your ritual that is often associated with sleep coming up shortly thereafter. So, first thing is to allow 1 hour to unwind. Second thing is when it's time to go to bed, but only if you're sleepy. If you're just fatigued and you don't feel drowsiness or sleepiness, it's preferable to postpone your bedtime because when you go to bed, you want to make sure that you fall asleep quickly. So it's better to postpone bedtime until you feel very sleepy. If you feel you are sleepy, you go to bed and you can't, get to sleep within, let's say, 15, 20 minutes, you should get out of bed, go to another room, engage in some quiet activity that might involve maybe reading a book, and go back to bed only when you feel sleepy again. Again, you want to recreate an association between your bed and bedroom and falling asleep quickly, not an association with wakefulness and worrying about your inability to get to sleep or to return to sleep. It's also important to get up in the morning, arise at the same time, regardless of how much sleep you had the night before. So this is very important again to regulate your sleep-wake schedule and avoid napping during the day. Although if you are truly sleep deprived, a short nap can be extremely beneficial. If it's insomnia, in the sense that you have trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep, it's best to avoid napping during the day because this will only perpetuate your sleep problem in the long run. And that's for the same reason we recommend to get up at the same hour every morning, regardless of how much sleep you got the night before. Because even if it's tempting, particularly when you don't need to get up in the morning, it's tempting to stay in bed to catch up on sleep. Maybe in the short run, this is a good idea to cope with insomnia, but in the long run, that's exactly the type of behaviors that will perpetuate the sleep problem.